Hey guys, here's the situation. You're ready to buy a home. You are ready. Financially, you have everything. You have your credit together. You have your saving, your down payment. You have an idea of what you want to do. You know which type of home you're going to get. So, you have that, but you feel some type of way. You have some butterflies in your stomach. You're not sure how you're going to move. You're not sure if you're making the right decision. So how do you know if it's really mentally and emotionally good for you to move and give your kidney away to a mortgage company? I'm not scaring you guys. And be ready to start. Well, guys, welcome to Let's Keep It Real Now. And today, that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to worry and care for our emotional being. Hey, guys, I am Danielle Bilumbu, your host here with DBK Real Estate. And here we have
Jabbie with AMP Lending.
And then also we have the awesome Miss Danielle.
Hi, I'm Danielle
Antaki Coy. And then she owns a business which is Danielleantakicoytherapy. And she is our specialist here who's going to give us a lot of tips and nuggets how to navigate this home buying or selling process emotionally and mentally.
Yay.
How are you, Danielle?
I'm doing good. I'm so excited to be here with you guys and talk about these things that honestly not a lot of people in the real estate business that I've encountered have talked about.
Yeah.
It is true because oftentimes when you're a realtor, in reality, you're like, okay, I'm a realtor or I'm a real estate broker, but you're also a psychologist, you're divorce and couple counseling.
Trust me.
You're a parent, so sometimes you have to hold your client's hand and say, okay, and pull them into the finish line because that oftentimes happens several times. I'm in a transaction, they're buying the home, we enter the contract, they went to the design center to build, and pick all the finishes they need for the home. And then the day or 2 days before closing, the husband, oftentimes it's the husband.
Yeah.
He start making some stuff and finding excuses why he wants to get out of the contract. And oftentimes I'm like, okay. And I oftentimes ask them directly the question, is that really the house, the situation? Or is that really you? What's going on with you?
Yeah.
I don't want to pressure you. I don't want you to feel any type of way. If this is not something, that's what I always tell them. And I say that this week again to another couple. If it's not sitting well in your gut, if your heart is not into it, do not do it. That's what I always tell them. If you don't feel good, don't do it. I will not force you into something. I will go and fight for you to get your money back. I'll present the fact if you cannot get your money back at the last minute, but I will fight for you to get your money back. But if you know without a shadow of a doubt this is not where you need to be, let's not do it.
Yeah.
Let's not do it.
And with me being a loan officer, I see this a lot. I see it a lot. So for me, I'm able to see the background of the borrower. I'm able to see how much money they have in the bank. I'm able to see how much money that they're making. I'm able to see what their monthly payments are going to be. So when I bring all these things to the client, sometimes they do get wet feet. Yeah, they do get wet feet because it's not just being able to afford the home. The whole process to it is when you're purchasing a home, you got to have emergency money. You got to have living money. You got to have different securities for whatever your family size is and what you have going on as a borrower. So I try to advise them accordingly. If you're going for a house that's $350 and you know you're in a tight space as far as covering that mortgage, let's look at a lower home. Typically, the women come up and they're like, no.
Don't start.
I don't want a lower home. I want the pool. I want all the upgrades. I want these certain things in the home that's going to put more value, which is going to make the house cost more money. So I see this a lot.
Danielle, how would you advise somebody like that? And I don't know, tell me if I'm right or wrong. I see the men tend to me, at the last minute, they want to bail out. They're like, I don't want to do it no more. I don't think. And then oftentimes I just advise them, and I let them think through among as a couple.
Exactly.
Because I don't want them to turn around and fight.
Blame you.
Blame me because I'm like, I'm on your side.
Exactly.
And I let them talk about it. So why do you think oftentimes, or do you know if it's men or women, or oftentimes it's men? How?
I mean, I think it varies. I think it depends on the couple and the situation, though. But I think in most relationships, you have one person that tends to be more dominant and one that tends to be more passive, and that's what kind of balances the relationship. Mm-hmm. And so if one is kind of giving up self a bit to accommodate the other one, and there's too much of giving up of self or too much compromise, which is what many people think that is the key to a successful marriage. And I come from a different perspective of thinking of really being careful not to give up too much of self when you're in a relationship, because this is when a lot of the problems will grow and exacerbate over time and just become major resentments in a relationship. So I think just really being able to have very, very, very honest conversations. And I think something else when you put a couple together, so let's say it's a married couple that you're probably working with mostly, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So there is, when you're working with them, really, I think as maybe in your position would be able to see, okay, who here is more of the dominant one in the relationship, and how much, and also financially. So is the dominant one also the one that's going to be mostly, responsible for the mortgage and everything? And so a lot of times they're going to have a lot more say in what that's going to look like. So it's just, I think it can get complicated. But even in relationships, how do you have more practical discussions of the day-to-day so that you can really think about when you're choosing a home, what is it that each person really values in the home and what's most important to them, because this is going to be a place you're spending a lot of time in. And mostly if it's the woman that is at home with the kids or, working part-time, she tends to spend a lot more time in the home. So I think it's important to make sure that whoever's spending more time in the home is really happy and content and satisfied with the space they're getting, so even thinking about all those pieces too.
So pretty much when we see couples, how, as advice for any real estate professional out there, how could we handle, I always do a buyer consultation or seller consultation with my client. Mm-hmm. How can we, first we have to identify who's the most dominant, right? Mm-hmm. I usually go by who's the decision maker.
Yes.
But what I've been doing and I stopped practicing is making sure everybody get the communication at the same time. I do the 3-way text. Never text one person without the other, because I don't want my word to be messed up or something like that. So how would you go about if there's more the dominant versus the other one? How can we, handle the transaction better?
Well, I think you will be able to sense where is the person that's making the biggest commitment here. Where are they at mentally and emotionally with this? Okay, there's of course differences in first-time owners, and is this their first home? What home is this that they're purchasing, right? I think the nerves exist a lot more for people that are, that have never bought a home before.
Exactly.
Right? There's a big commitment there that can be really, really just. That's where all the emotions come up of just like, okay, how long are we staying in this home? Is this our forever home or our long-term home? Is this temporary? All those kinds of questions to really think about. So I think even just the questions that you ask and the things that you think about are more than enough to kind of guide people, right? But at the end of the day, it's their responsibility and not yours, right? It's their responsibility. Even if I would have loved to have someone like you in my corner to work with, at the end of the day, it was, when I decided to buy my home, it was more of me thinking through a lot of the practical stuff that I didn't think about at the time. Yeah. So, yeah, just something to think about there.
And how that happened to me also. I have clients, they go through anxiety attack. Like, we need to show you home, but you just panic because the thought of having people coming into your home, looking through your stuff, how would you advise someone who's going through things like that, for example?
Well, that's a great question. So for me, stuff is what makes me personally anxious.
Okay.
So too many things is what's overwhelming. And so when you think about someone coming into your home, and if you are planning on leaving your home, so you're trying to show your home, I think starting the process before you're even, moving into a new space of what do I really need in my home? The more things you have, or maybe even thinking about putting some stuff in storage if you're moving from a smaller house to a bigger house and trying to get some of that stuff out of your house, because I think that that's what becomes overwhelming for people is the way things look. And obviously when you're looking online, the pictures are taken so nicely, but then I've seen pictures online where the houses I can't even see the home. There's too many things in the way. And so I think that can obviously make it hard for people that are looking at pictures online and trying to picture their own self living in that home. So I think just kind of decluttering and getting rid of things that are not, part of what they want to bring into a new space.
And how would you advise someone who actually the seller and that's the person who needs to release the stress of knowing that people will be walking into their home?
Well, I mean, I guess it's just, I think it's just working on your own attachment to your things. I don't know what a person's really worried about. I have a harder time maybe relating to some of that, but
some people, they worry about securities. They're like, oh my God, you're going to grant access to people. They would have my key and just walk in and out of my house. Some people worry maybe some stuff can be stolen. Usually if they have an alarm system, which I advise if they do, just make sure you add the camera on the inside so you can see who's in and out and what they do. I also advise them to remove, just like you say earlier, any personal belonging, jewelry, anything that is emotionally attached to them or the value, remove it, lock everything away, buy a safe, close and lock everything, because some people are sticky finger. Well, sometimes it's not the person. Sometimes they walk around with the keys and the keys are sticky finger. So, but I just want to make sure that I've been in the cases where clients are very, very nervous. Like it's nerve-wracking for them to have someone walking into their home.
I can imagine that.
Yeah, and of course you're not following them all around, every single person that's looking in these rooms and stuff. So
yes, they're making very uncomfortable for them to look at the house. Like, why is this person following me around like a security guard? So, and then how would you advise for people that decided to you now that you moved buying the house and you are inside the house? Have you seen sometimes people get depression because of the place they're living?
Oh, I think so. I think there's that buyer's remorse. I'm sure you hear about that a lot, and there's just a lot of feelings that kind of go into that with big purchases, right? So definitely. So what were you thinking about when you're thinking about people and
I know
depression?
Sometimes some people, they have to work from home. How could now that because of COVID, a lot of people work from home and they, how could that really affect you mentally when you work from home?
Oh, definitely. I think you're spending a lot of time in the space, right? And so I think really figuring out where do you thrive most in your space. So for me, I need a door, right? I need to work in a space where I can close a door and have privacy. But if you don't have that kind of job, then you can kind of move around in whatever space. But if you're someone who needs multiple monitors, so obviously you get set up somewhere. So I think just thinking about what environment do you thrive in most, right? Like for me, I really appreciate lighting, good lighting, big windows. Can I have some fresh air come in through my house? Depending where you live, it's maybe not but anyway, you're just, that kind of stuff. Do you have anything alive? Like I love plants and I love having that kind of stuff around, making sure you clear your space. I think taking breaks and having boundaries with your own hours.
So pretty much you will advise someone, okay, so break it down your hours and really take breaks, like physically move.
Yes. Remove yourself from there, take these breaks that not cleaning. And, sometimes I think we can fall into like, oh, well, you're at home, so maybe you're expected to do more of the chores and these kinds of things, which doesn't feel like a break. It feels more like a burden, and then can create tension in your relationship. Well, I do a lot more, but well, you spend a lot of time at home, that kind of stuff. So I think making sure that you take breaks that are for yourself, whether that's just like laying down or doing a meditation or just breathing or taking a walk outside or whatever it is that's really just around what is it that's going to kind of, help you get back into your work and feel energized.
Yeah.
Any item maybe to bring also inside the house? I heard that you say plant earlier. What else could you bring inside the house to help you feel better mentally and emotionally?
I'm a huge fan of lavender. So pure lavender, mine is sourced from France, and I use oil. You can get actual dried lavender. I think lavender is the most calming type of plant out there that you can have, and when you have and you're breathing that, not synthetic, not chemical smell, but pure lavender. I think I'm a huge fan of that. I think that is the number one anxiety reducer that's natural. I think.
Nice.
I really advise a lot of people to use it in their day-to-day. I have a lot of clients that work from home, and I have one of them who he carries around a bag of dried lavender, and he just moves it around from wherever he is. And, you basically think about what you're doing. Okay, so when you are
breathing,
you're breathing in the smell. So not only are you now connected to your breath, you are breathing in a scent that's really calming for the nervous system. Okay. So it just basically encourages people to breathe on top of it.
That's nice. So we have lavender. Could pets help?
I think pets can help if you're obviously a pet person and it's not a lot. I think they can also cause a lot of distraction. So I think, but having that time, I know a lot of people love to go like pet their pets on their break and all that. So absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a question as well. There's a lot of situations that I endure as far as like with being a loan officer where, you have couples, you're going to have a couple that's dominant like you spoke about earlier, right? But then you also have couples, let's say there's one of the mates that makes most of the money, right? And because they're making most of the money.
Is it husband or wife?
Husband and wife, but it
Which
could be
one?
either or. Just say either or,
Sure,
right?
they both exist.
One's making more money than the other, right? And because they're making more money than the other, they use that leverage.
Yes, I've seen that a lot.
What type of advice would you give to couples as far as communication and making the other person feel involved within the transaction?
I think really knowing what people's priorities are, because let's say it's you and I, right? And my priorities, I write down my priorities, you write down yours. Wherever we don't align, is really having those conversations of how do you want to make this work, where we are not aligned, or when our priorities aren't the same or our values are not the same. So now if you have people that obviously align on that, you're not going to have that as big of an issue. So the ones that misalign, more of just thinking, we're not going to be able to align on these 10 different things together. That's just not realistic. I think really being more realistic and factual through the process is very important. But really imagining all that practicality piece, I think, is just really important.
Yeah.
So what happened when they do not align in the values? Some people, they're like, well, I'm making more money. So because I'm making more money, I'm going to be paying the mortgage.
Yeah.
We should go by what I want, and you should calm down, for example, with your job and focus on the kids or whatever. How would you help a couple like that?
Yeah.
I've seen that a lot. And then sometimes you're like, oh, that's not nice.
Because that person could even be the dominant person within the relationship, but they just don't have that money value, right?
Yeah.
But they still want to be involved, or they still try to act like they're involved, but then I have to go back to the decision maker and really reconfirm with that person, okay, are we doing this or are we not? You see what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. So it can kind of get, to a situation where I have to play more into the other person that's not the money maker. I have to play into their emotions a little bit more and kind of, big them up and, ask them questions like, well, what do you like about the house? Or what do you feel about the school? Or, just to make them feel a little bit more involved versus what the other mate may be, emotionally leaving them out. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's best way you can go about it. Like, at the end of the day, everyone's different and, unique in their way that they make decisions. So we can't really, put it in one box, right? This is just it's very complex.
It's a relationship. So I guess for us, it will be a question to really ask both of them what they value the most,
right,
into their home purchase or selling steps. What's important to them? Are you more, if you're selling your home, are you, the number is just what you want, or you care about who's going to buy the house? As far as, you want another family buying there, or do you want to look at where your family live? And it's just come back to basic. Ask them very deep question about themselves,
right? To
be able to, when they start acting, and you're like, well, you told me that, are you still, is it something that you really want? Just to come back with some of the stuff you can do in the house. Which type of color do people need to avoid to have in their home?
Well, maybe some of the obvious are the dark colors, right?
Dark colors.
But
we had a trend for a little while where dark black started coming,
Trendy.
Yeah, trending.
Yeah.
And I heard that in the 80s, the red, people living in a home with a lot of red, where the level of suicide was very high. Is that true?
I'm not sure. I'm not too big on that kind of stuff. I think, really it depends on the person. Are you someone who really likes a bright space, or do you have an emotional connection to a particular color? So I guess if it's a dark color and you really do well and thrive in that, then that would work for one person, right? So I think really that's another conversation to have with your significant other. And I know a lot of people will just they'll paint one wall and, they'll make one room be the funky, fun room or whatever for them. So I guess if you have a big enough home and you each get to, I think that's another piece, maybe going back to you, is let's say you buy a 4-bedroom home, and you have the primary where the married couple is staying, and one or two of the rooms are are for the kids or whatnot. And then you have one guest room or office, however you do it, is being able to each kind of, maybe you have one person who has just zero interest in how and what the space looks like. And I think, I don't know if you see this a lot, but I see this a lot where one's just like, I don't really care, whatever the wife wants. It's, I hear that.
But I'm sure you hear, my husband's like, I'm like, what do you think about this chandelier? Oh, whatever you want. You like it, I love it. That's what you say all the time, right? And then you get the chandelier, it's like, oh my God, this is very feminine. But I ask you.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing, right? I'm sure you see a lot of that. So right, and I think that you break it all down to all the different things that go in a home, right? And then maybe your husband was just like, yeah, that's whatever you want, but then he's not really imagining it and can see it finally in the space, and there's something there, right? So I don't know, shop places that have a full refund, I guess, is my thing.
Nah, to me, it's like you say, if you like it, I love it, it stay.
Happy wife, happy life. Right?
I don't know if that says true. I think it's more happy spouse, happy life.
I don't know.
I think it's more happy spouse, happy life. Because if you only say happy wife, happy life, I don't know. I see some people that are not happy.
That's true. But I mean, when it comes to relationships, it's always catering to the woman. It's always
used to. This is 2023, my friend.
It's always like that, though. Valentine's Day, birthdays, things are different when you're looking at the man versus when you're looking at the woman. Talk to a man about Father's Day, and then talk to a woman about Mother's Day, and see what the difference is as far as what they do.
Danielle, correct me if I'm wrong. I think in that aspect, I personally believe is the woman we express ourselves more, right? We are known to be emotional and then cry about things and then complain about things, right? I feel like women, we express it, right? You didn't care about my birthday, you didn't care about whatever. Men, you still have the same feeling and emotion that us, but you guys don't express it as much. So that's why you think it's just a woman thing. No. I think it's both way. When we go, for example, I hope my husband won't be mad at me, but When he was tiny, when he was a little kiddo, they used to ask him, what do you want for your birthday? He always say, oh, nothing. The reason why I was saying nothing, not because he didn't want anything. It's just didn't want to bother people. But then on the other side, sibling will get a bunch of stuff. But now he's an adult. Fast forward 20, 30 years later, I say, oh, they used to have everything. I never got anything. But you never, when they ask you, you didn't express it. The girl expressed it. Yeah. So now you feel some type of way. But I think correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like men just tone it down a little bit and women would just go.
Oh, well, I think we're in a shift, if I may. You know, I think what you're saying is still probably more dominant right now is what's happening more. But I think it's shifting more towards, you know, individuals becoming more expressive and in touch with themselves. True. Right? There's more of that's happening, but it's still very strong where, you know, I mean, you can speak from a male perspective, but what I hear a lot of is just, you know, men have to assume these positions and these roles. And so a lot of men seem to give up self to accommodate others, right? Now this can be a whole other conversation, but when you have a family and depending on what sibling position you are, or if you're an only child, or what gender you were born into, you know, culturally, you may be assumed to take on these responsibilities, right? I work with a variety of different, you know, people from around the world, and I see it very consistently. There are patterns that are very predictable for men and for women, and then depending on, you know, what kind of home you grew up in. So I think a lot of that has to do with that. So but these sibling things,
I'm going to pick up your brain. I'm the oldest in all of us. But I'm going to pick up your brain on because I have 4 of them, right? 3 girls, 1 boy. The second one is the boy. The first is a girl. And then girls. Is that position in the family really, outside of the first one, because I'm a first one, I know the first one we tend to be, quote, people pleaser with the parents because we want to make sure they're proud of us. And then we tend to be a little bossy because we have all the people behind us. But with the other position, based on your experience, what are the difference between kids, depending on your position in the sibling world?
Okay, so depending on how many kids there are in a family, again, and what your gender is, I think the firstborn tend to have a lot more of the responsibility put on them, and then you're also getting maybe the most immature functioning of your parents when they had you, because you're the first one and there's a lot of anxiety that comes with having a child. They don't know what they're doing as much. And then when you have your second, you're more accustomed to that and you're more relaxed. So you're already different. So there's a saying in the field I am in that says, you know, everybody is born into a different family. Oh. So when you think about it, like the first one, so even when you think of your own children, what age you were when you had your 4th child versus your first child. Oh, wow. And then where were you financially and and how successful were you doing? How established were you in your life? How, you know, all of those things make a difference, right? If I'm having a child at 21 versus 30, I'm a completely different version of myself. So you're also taking that into account of the parents and the life and how much life has happened since you're, you know, next
so it
child.
must be very difficult. How do you, there's no fairness about the way you're going to raise your kids. No matter what you do, you cannot be as fair for the kids' eyes. For example, I feel like, it's true. I had my first one, my early 30s, my last one, my late 30s, and I'm way more cool now. Like some stuff she does, I laugh about it. But I know for my first one, when she was doing it, I didn't think it was funny. You know? My first one, I remember one time she took one of the product, put the body lotion, and she threw it everywhere. It went on the wall, on the carpet. It was horrible. I was really not happy. She was about 1.5 years. I cleaned it up and stuff, but I was cleaning. I was pissed off. But one time, my last one took the baby powder and threw it everywhere. I'm just like, oh, this is so cute, you know.
Well, and I think that's a good point. So think about that in the context of owning a home. Let's say you just got your home with your first one. And you want it to stay looking good. Your first one is now here destroying your home or, you know, making a mess. By your 4th one, your house is already, you know, very lived in. So you're also less angry and stressed, you know.
She said very lived in. Yeah, I like that.
You know? So unless you're buying a couch every kid you have new furniture, right? Which is not the reality.
I think after so many kids, you just keep the same couch until you wait for the last one to be big enough.
Exactly.
Just destroy the couch.
Yeah,
you know?
we get a new
The first one, you try to keep it nice. I still have seat cover though in my house for my kids. I don't want them
Okay.
to mess up my chair and stuff.
Yeah,
But the couch
yeah.
is looking crazy.
Yeah,
They did everything on it, you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Hopefully you guys learned a lot today regarding your relationship with your home. But the takeaway is pretty much if you're in a relationship with somebody and you're trying to buy or sell the home, you two need to sit down together and write down what's important to each
Yeah.
other. Try not to be, if you're the dominant one, try not to take over too much, pretty much. And then
Don't
space
be
for
a
the
bully.
let space for the other one to express themselves and really take in consideration where you're at with you and your family. If you have to stay there and have a growing family, also consider that in the future. Thank you so much, Danielle.
You are
Thank
so
you.
welcome. Thank you both.
Very informative.
Fun.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
guys. So if you want to have the pleasure to have Danielle as your therapist, how people can reach out to you?
So you can find me on Psychology Today. So you can search my name, Danielle Antaki. That's Antaki, and my last name is Coy. So I take insurance mostly, and I, of course, can pay out of pocket as well to see me. And my specialty is in Bowen Family Systems Theory. It's a little bit more unconventional, different type of therapy that you'll find out there, and it's more so like coaching and whatnot. But that's it.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Hopefully you learned a lot. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.